George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Well, we've got a brother here that's working with men all across the state of New York, connecting fathers, helping fathers to be the best that they can be, giving them a space to tell their truths, and also supporting them with the resources that they need. Reggie Cox is the executive director of the Fatherhood Connection. They're based out of Rochester, New York. Well, he's based out of Rochester, New York. And we're so pleased to have Reggie on the call. We met through a series of conversations around fatherhood initiatives in another project that I'm involved in the community. But I like the work that Reggie's doing, and he's got some pretty good insights on how we can work with fathers, whether they're in the house or outside of the house, and also re-entering into the community, and just providing resources and support. So, Reggie, talk to me about what the Fatherhood Initiative is, and it's so good to connect with you for our audience.
Awesome. It's an honor, George, to be here with you, and I appreciate the work that you're doing in the community and abroad. The Fatherhood Connection is a men's parenting and personal development series. We go about 12, anywhere from 10 to 13 groups that we deal with some of the major topics that are relative to parenting, co-parenting, anger, domestic violence, things of that nature. We've worked with Monroe County Department of Social Services here in Rochester for about 9.5 years. They hired us to run our work, and family court referred guys so that we can get joint custody, that we can get get their parenting rights and all that stuff in order. But we really look at the holistic approach of men and how their father was and how they were raised. What things will we keep, toss, or add? How do we address those issues and concerns about either my father or my father figure that I had in my life, and what barriers that we want to break in those things. So we're honored to be able to get guys to come through and get that aha moment where they can really learn about themselves, right, and tap into their purpose and their destiny.
And of course, I should tell people we do have a couple of initiatives here in the Syracuse community, which you will learn about a little bit later on. But what makes your program unique, Reggie, is that you're doing this in multiple counties around the state of New York. And so I'm interested in, what are you hearing from dads? What are some of the main issues that are coming up for dads that you're navigating as you do this work around the state, especially in the western part of the state and the southern tier?
Yeah, George, we're hearing a lot that, first of all, guys are trying to address some of the ills of their own relationship with their fathers. So many of them didn't have a healthy father figure. Even like myself, my father was an alcoholic. And so I didn't get affirmation, approval, and celebration. And so we're finding that a lot of guys didn't get their needs met. So then they went outside the home to try and get those needs met. And so now when they're developing and getting exposed to behaviors and trauma and all of that other stuff, the ACEs, I mean, we could talk about that stuff. It affects us long term. And so then we grow up and really keep the generational thing going. And now we're developing, having children with some of the same pain that we've carried. And so that's a big one there, the relationship with their own fathers. The co-parenting one is a big one, George, where being able to co-parent, to work with the mother, even if we're not together, how do I make decisions for the best interest of the child? And again, if the father isn't being abusive, right, to his child, if he's not neglecting him, allow that father to be connected in some way, so that he can be able to hopefully encourage that son or daughter, right, to be connected to them in positive ways. So these are some areas that really just jump off the page when we're talking with guys. The whole family court thing and the biases that goes with that, how they're treated, when they go into court, and when they feel that they're not, it could be the same issues with the mom that the dad has. He's stable, and yet they'll find that he may not be offered, the visitation and the rights that perhaps maybe a mom would. So it would be some kind of challenges in the bias or the systemic injustice that we find going across the different court systems. So there's a lot of that stuff, George, that is going on. But even the anger. How am I dealing with my anger, man? I mean, do I disconnect? Do I become more aggressive? And how do I communicate that, right? How do I communicate? Because the way I saw communication, it gave anger a bad rap. But the truth is, anger was designed to be a defense against a threat. But everything's not a threat, George.
Right.
So it's a lot of challenges, I think, moving forward.
You mentioned a couple of things that I really want to hone in on, and I'm going to go back to this court issue, not the court issue, but I heard something this week, and I wish I had written it down in a way that I can describe it. So I don't know if I can articulate this, but this is what I was meeting with some folks in Onondaga County, and they were talking about there was if the guy, two people living in the home with a child, and if the mother goes to receive benefits from or whatever it is from the county, it automatically triggers child support for the father, the non-custodial father, or the custodial father, which then, in order for the woman to get those benefits, the guy has to leave the house because the income, it's just a site. Now, I don't know if I'm explaining it right. Maybe you can help me understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you're really hitting on something that really has not incorporated or instituted the role of the father as being more than just money. And so and there are times when the woman won't get the services that she needs, right, that will assist her unless there's a father being absent. If he's absent, I can then help you meet those services, rather it be food, rather it be other support from the county. But because he's there, I mean, they would come in and check the environment, look at the closet, look at what's in the refrigerator, and see if there's a need for the services to be given to this woman. But if the father's there, or if there's any apparel or anything that says that a father's there, then they may be denied those services.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, and also triggering child support was the other piece of that. Like it's an automatic thing, and you may not have the income. I just couldn't figure, I'm not explaining it right. Somebody will call me and explain it right to me, but I knew that was an issue because they want to get fathers involved, but that seemed to be a barrier, the automatic triggering of child support. So then there may not be services sought. But something else that you said, Reggie, that I want to go back to, which was that as men, perhaps in our families, we didn't receive what you say as affirmation, approval, and celebration. And that really hit me because I never thought of that as something, because I think I know I received that, and I know it's something that we do automatically with our children, especially with our men, but there seems to be this resonance. Do you think that that's still an issue for this generation?
Absolutely.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely, George. One of the things that when we talk about bonding, families were designed to create a bond. We were created to bond. So when we're not getting affirmed, approved, or celebrated, right, it's a longing to be accepted. And so again, now I'm not being praised. I mean, if you're not coming to my football games or basketball games or coming to school and to celebrate my joy, my experiences, then I long to be accepted. I long for understanding or being in an environment that speaks to my strengths and speaks to the things that I do well. And so if I'm not doing that, then I automatically begin to thrive in other areas. In other words, what we do with our either boys to men group, this is our ages 13 to 21, our youth group, when we find that you don't begin to get that affirmation, approval, celebration, they will begin to gravitate to others who give it to them. So watch this, George. They may even take out a body, but they get the affirmation, they get the approval, they get the celebration. They may carjack somebody or go up and just sneak somebody in the face just to get affirmation. So there's a hunger and thirst for affirmation, for praise, for celebration, and especially with our men. And so when we don't get it, we either are going to disconnect and find it in other ways, or develop a coping mechanism that satisfies the longing for acceptance. So we're really dealing with issues of abandonment and rejection when I don't get affirmation, approval, and celebration in the home.
Wow, you just said something right there, Reggie, this idea of this notion of abandonment, because a lot of us don't recognize that that's what's really going on.
Yes.
The abandonment, there might be a physical attachment, but what I'm really hearing you say, the abandonment is the emotional detachment. That's what I'm really hearing.
Exactly. And so when we talk about the 5 domains of what works within a holistic and healthy individual, we're talking about the emotional connection. I mean, my father was there physically. Right? But he was not there emotionally. And so again, I don't know what's going on with my thing, but so what we find then is that if he's not there emotionally, I'm not really able to hear the affection that comes from him, right? And so again, that's just the emotional attachment. He didn't say, I love you. He didn't give me a hug. So those things, I don't know what that's like. And now it's like peeling the onion later on in life. I'm married, right? And now I'm trying to, show the affection to my wife, and she's in need of that as well as my daughters and my sons, but it's not been my experience. So either I overdo it or don't do it enough. So then we got a spiritual connection. We have the physical connection. So all of these other connections really help me to be healthy. And so that whole connection piece is huge. And a lot of times it's out of fear that I gravitate, or do I go through a direction? It's out of me not getting a need met. And so when we ask guys, what was the unmet need? Most guys don't even know how to talk about that. What unmet need? You can actually have a father present, George, right, and be there and still find it difficult for a need to be met.
And I'm also interested in the fact that you said, talking with Reggie Cox, he's the executive director of the Fatherhood Connection. They're based in Rochester. And that this idea that you don't even know what you don't know that you don't have, right? Like you don't even know that that's what you need, but it's kind of unmet. And we grow up in this way. And then let me hit you with this, Reggie. And then we got to mask up to not show. Oh, come on with it. I know you want to talk to me about that.
Yes. So now I've learned to cope, and this is just what I would say. This is just the way I am. But the truth is, you've not understood really the potential and the capacity of who you are. You've learned from your experience and from the rejection in most cases, or abandonment in most cases, right? You've learned how to cope with it. And so there's always that lens of not being good enough, or I have to perform, or I have to do something to be recognized. When the truth is, I need to learn how to be authentic, that in my authentic self, I'm an influence to be reckoned with. But if I haven't gotten affirmed, approved, and celebrated, George, I'll do this extra stuff that really violates who I really am. And so to me, that's huge.
I don't know. I don't want it to be missed that I heard you say that I will even drop a body because I'm affirmed that way. And that, I hope that people heard that, because that's shocking to me, right? And I haven't quite heard it that way, that I will, knowing that that's a way for me to get approval. So I'll be out here in these streets because I haven't felt it any other way. That should really alarm us as men and as fathers who are raising young men, and as mothers who are raising young men. And I want to get to that piece, because there are a lot of women who are raising sons, right? And their father is either there in the house or not in the house. And so let's talk about that, because how critical that relationship is with the child's father. and the choices that let me go this way with it. If that person is if you're in an abusive relationship and yet there's a child in that relationship, one, you don't deserve to be in that relationship. So let me just say that.
Right.
But sometimes we make the sacrifice, talking now from a women's perspective, to keep the family, to keep the illusion of the family together. And I say illusion because it ain't really, you're not really together, and you're not really with that person. So what about that piece from both sides of it, from the man's side of it, when he wants to see the kid but there's static with mom, and the mom that don't want you near the kid? Help me with all of that.
That's a mountain right there, George. I tell you, so many times I believe that, I'm a father of 10 kids, 5 boys and 5 girls. And so many a times my daughters are going to look for a man who's like unto me. Woe and behold, I'm hoping that I'm walking in the best version of myself. But if I haven't affirmed my daughter, if I haven't been there and really recognized the mannerisms and the treatment and the respect that they saw me do unto their mother and then also unto them, then they will begin to grow up with the norm or that exposure that, this is how men act. This is what men do. And so if I haven't been a healthy father figure, even to my daughter, right, she's with the illusion that anybody that really speaks to her certain ways to get her attention, she's still longing for that affirmation as well. And so the role that the father has to his daughter is huge. I mean, I can't say enough about that if he's not really being able to show how a man will cover her, how a man will respect her, how he would treat her, how he doesn't force himself on her, right? And so in the opposite is where now that my son needs to see how I treat my wife. He needs to be able to see how that even though she may have moments when I don't understand her, I can be angry and still function. I can own and apologize for my mistakes. So when we haven't had those healthy boundaries, George, it really impacts us, the child, as they grow up. And now they're having issues in their own relationships, right? Longing for the acceptance, longing to be connected and to be bonded. And so now we select any guy because we've not been instituted with the proper values.
Yeah. And the idea, Reggie, that not anyone is going to be worthy. And I think,
yes,
but at the same time, I do want us to talk about how the challenges and the struggles for dads, because that's what this is all about, right? What are the struggles that dads are going through, and how can fathers create a situation where they are supported, being able to talk about what they need and what are the issues that they face.
Yeah, George. One of the things that we do within our groups, we're grateful to be able to have fatherhood groups, support groups throughout the counties, but yet even moving towards across the state. What we're finding is that fathers need to learn how to be vulnerable and transparent. And what we do,
we ain't ready for that.
Right. We create an environment of vulnerability and transparency. So I'm a better father and father figure and grandfather to my grandchildren, but yet I need to talk about the mistakes I've made in my process to become who I am today. Mm-hmm. And so when they hear me own my mistakes and tell you about some of the things I dropped the ball with, it causes them to be okay to be able to share where I'm dropping the ball currently, right? And so now it creates a bond. It's not a silo. It's not something that I got to stuff away. No, I got some, I tell them, I said, I'm a handful. And right. So they need to hear other men having that handful. I call it the boy. The boy is the 2-year-old toddler that when his needs are not met, he spazzes out, George. All men have a boy in them, just like all women have a girl in them. And so when I'm selfish and self-centered and I'm not addressing those needs and I'm looking for other ways to blame and cause other people to be responsible for my behavior, then I'm still looking at the boy or the girl on deck. So the vulnerability and transparency is huge when we create that environment. And I'm not no big eye, little you. We're in this together as a team. And when men can hear that and see that demonstrated, when you can be able to apologize and you can understand humility opens the door for growth. When you go there, then men begin to see that I don't have to be all masculine and I don't have to compete because everybody got their own shine. I just need to learn how to walk in my greatest shine.
So what then are the ways in which you hear from fathers and what they're saying they need? Why even do this focus?
Wow, George. It's so many reasons, I believe. And I think, again, it comes from the lack of understanding purpose, a lack of understanding your own identity, the lack of understanding that your treasure is on the inside of you. We do a workshop called Manhood, and it talks about, in the Greek, it talks about this word ergon. Ergon is really the study of oneself. And so it really begins that I can work all outside a 9 to 5, but I'll work on the external and never understand the significance of working on the internal. So discovering your own passion and how that leads to purpose. So again, it's a working and discovering of oneself, right? And I think that this is what we do in our fatherhood support groups, that we talk about the treasure. Oh, that's good right there. We talk about the treasure and the greatness within us. It's untapped. It's not activated always. And again, this is where I come to affirm. I say this, that we teach and train other guys to be treasure hunters. Meaning that, George, there's some things in you, man, that really it's getting ready to explode. It's getting ready. The call to greatness that's in you, George. You're doing some things and perhaps not even aware of that greatness. And so we're going to point that out. Not make your ego big, but begin to look at that. What you're doing, you're making a difference, and your influence is second to none. Now, I got to stay humble in order to continue to grow. The upward climb is humility. So I got to be able to welcome humility, meaning own my stuff, right? Not try and pass the blame on somebody else, but to address it. I need to grow in my ability to communicate, to love, and to watch this, to handle my injustice when I'm treated wrong. Do I still know how to function, George? Right? I can still handle this, right? I just need to be able to vent. Allow me to vent effectively. And so that's where crying and grieving and things of that nature is important as we grow.
So what do fathers need now? Well, let me go back. Before I get to what fathers need, let me go back to the other piece of that, though. I want to get to one population, the reentry population, because these are folks that have what do you call it? They may have been absent. Right? They may not have a relationship. They may not have, you know what I mean? You talk about being disconnected. What about folks coming back? And I know you work with that population as well.
Yeah, the reentry piece, I feel like there's a certain grace and certain flow that I have with people that are in recovery and people that are coming out of, reentry, in the fact that we do a workshop called Discipline versus Punishment. And many times we don't understand the difference between discipline and punishment. Punishment, it really is about inflicting a penalty. And so we got to get to the point where we're really seeking to discipline, which comes from the word disciples, what comes about teaching and guiding. Now it's your turn to do it. So really becoming a better teacher. And so when we deal with those that have made some major mistakes, or I call it a repeated offender, we do what we call a SWOT analysis. The SWOT is a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. To be able to own my strength as well as my weakness. Come on now, right? Yes. I can't just talk about my strength and not address the fact that I still don't handle this issue with arrogance, or I don't handle, pride is always getting me jacked up, getting me caught up, or the tendency to be noticed all the time. I have to address these things, right? Or I'm going to end up back to the place that I said I don't want to be. Now, I'll say this last thing that I'll pass it to you. Many times when we talk about this, when we go into the jail tomorrow, we're going to do that. How that if I'm incarcerated, if I'm in jail, everybody that loves me, George, is locked up with me.
Ooh. You done said something.
That's huge.
You done said something there. Okay.
That's huge.
everybody is locked up with me, right? In every way, mentally, physically,
There you
right?
go. The 5 domains, all of them. Yes.
Come on. Give me the other three. What's the other three?
It's emotional, it's
Right.
physical, it's spiritual, right? It's mental. And what was the other one? So it's social. So
Social.
by socially, I don't even know how to build relationships because I will go back to the hood or go back to the way that the same people are waiting for me to arrive when I get out.
Right.
And if I don't have a plan to connect, right, with a different, they say we have to change what? People, places, and things. And if I don't change that, I will come back here and hurt again and again the same people that love me. So we're trying to address that as we go in there, George.
All right. Lastly, Reggie Cox, fatherhoodconnection.org. .org or .com. Let me get it right.
.com.
.com. Fatherhoodconnection.com. Reggie, what's the message to the sisters who are dealing with fathers?
Wow. I would say this. First of all, understanding that you make a difference. And even if you're challenged and struggling with trying to raise either a son or a daughter on your own, right? The father figure or the men that's in your life, you want them to be whole. All right. You want to be able to understand the values that the fathers or the father figures or the people that you're connected to that are males. You want those positive males to have some type of relationship with your children, right? Rather you're with them or not, you want something positive. The other thing is that we want to deal with parent alienation. I don't have enough time to talk about that, but I can't be really knocking him and speaking all the negativity about him. I need to be able to own where I'm at. I'm still angry with him. He cheated on me, whatever he did, right? I need to bring some closure and heal from that place, right? Because if I don't, I'm then spawning and teaching my child to carry the same pain that I have.
If there's an opportunity for it to be healthy, because for some, having that man, not having that man is better than having that man.
Yes.
If he's not going to change and not like
yes.
that's a other piece. Lastly, what's the message to the brothers? I love it. I'm still thinking about the treasure hunter. I love that. I love that. Oh my God, I love that. What's the message to fathers? What do you want to leave? What is the treasure you want to leave for the fathers who are looking to reconnect or want to who are having an influence or are stuck and struggling with their relationship with their children and with each other and with other dudes?
Yes. First, I would start off, if I don't manage, watch this, George. If I don't manage my boy, people get paid to manage my boy. So I have to be able to manage him, right? I can't let him just run rapid, in any kind of way. And I have to be accountable. I have to learn to appreciate structure and accountability. I may not like it, but it's necessary, right, for my growth. And then there is an influence that you have. Every man influences at least 8 to 10 other people. And so now, am I presenting my best version of self? If not, I need to be around other men who are doing this, talking about this, being able to hold me accountable and challenge me. I believe that we are a team together. There's no big I's and little U's. The truth is, George, you and I, right, we can sharpen each other. We need each other. And so finding that type of men association is helpful for us. We are not alone, and we can't be an island by ourselves.
The fatherhoodconnection.com. Reggie Cox is the executive director, part of an initiative that you'll be hearing more about in the Q's, but he's part of a statewide initiative as well, making a difference in the lives of fathers. So, Reggie, I think we're going to be hearing more from you down the line. So you just keep the faith, brother, because I see the treasure in you, my brother. Inspiration for the nation.
Awesome.